Hello everyone, welcome back to another Transformers review. As you can see, I'm doing another one of the Transformers Prime wave of toys. This is of course Airachnid. Now this is obviously a female character as well, which is a little bit more unusual in the Transformers line. And this was kindly given to me by Wolf, I've got to pronounce this right, Wolfgang1. His name's Gerard, another good reviewer and just sort of general nice guy that I've got to know over the YouTube community. He actually hated this figure where he got it, and actually was kind enough to actually send me it. Well, I just remarked that I quite liked it. I'd seen my nephew's version of this one, and actually think it's quite a good Transformer. Now I know that's a little bit sort of divided. Some people like it, some people don't in the community. But I'll go through the little bits what I do like. There are niggly bits with any figure, and she is no different. Now, just to give you a quick look at the figure and the accessories, you get two weapons which aren't the greatest of weapons, I will admit that, and they are almost like electro stinger type weapons. It would have been quite nice if they'd have sort of done something, if they'd opened up as like little jaws or even fired the missile or something, but they're just basic little weapons in their own light, in their own sort of like way. Quite nicely detailed though. But there you go, I mean that's basically all they are. Now looking at the basic toy in vehicle mode, now I do actually really like this. Now again, a lot of people have complained about it, but I don't mind it at all. Now if I bring it in up close, just like the Vehicle, you've got a tiny, even smaller than the Vehicle's Decepticon logo there on the nose cone. I love the colour scheme. I do like the purple and black on the Decepticons. I think that really does look good and harkens right back to the G1 days with Skywarp, of course. It was in the same colours. A very neat little helicopter mode. The only thing it's really lacking is some undercarriage. Sort of, you've got no landing wheels, so it does sort of just sit there, unfortunately, which it sits alright, but it's a little bit of a shame. Now it's sort of kind of loosely based on some kind of stealth helicopter, so not a great deal to it, because obviously most stealth vehicles have everything enclosed and have weird angles and that to disrupt radar imagery, so pretty basic. Kind of reminds me a little bit of what was it, Blue Thunder, is that right, from the old film back in the, that must have been in the 80s, 70s, 80s. But yeah, I actually really like the little vehicle mode. Now the helicopter blades are a bit weird. Now they, of course, because Airachnid is sort of again kind of based around the Arachnid from the Beast Wars sort of character, sort of harkens back with a little bit of a reference to that. So you've got a kind of spider mode in the cartoon of Prime, but you can't actually do that in the toy. But the helicopter blades are sort of mimicking those sort of spider legs. Now another little feature that sort of like you don't always expect on this, and kind of again harkens back to the roots of Transformers in their Diaclone sense, is the fact that they bother to include a opening canopy. Now if I can get my nail in there and lift up the hatch and get that in the light so it picks up, get it to focus in, you actually get a little purple seat. Now it would have been quite fun if they'd have included a little tiny figure just to pop in there, but it is very similar and sort of like, as I say, harkens back to the original roots of Transformers with their Diaclone drivers. So yeah, a nice little touch, which again they didn't really have to put the little seat in there. It could have just been for the transformation and just have left it as that. So again, that is another little feature which I do like. Now getting to the actual robot mode and the transformation on this girl, which makes an unusual again in that sense that a female Transformer is in itself unusual. first of all, you can get these blades up and out of the way, which I tend to do just for the sake of showing you the rest of the transformation. You lift up the canopy again, if I can again get my nail into it, and flip over the nose cone, and that goes in like so, and you can then close the canopy back. The next part of the transformation really revolves around the tail. Now, I know some of you might be thinking you haven't bothered to peg the weapons on in helicopter mode. I don't usually bother. To be quite honest, they're not great. You can peg them on in a variety of ways. I should really show you, I suppose. They do show it being forward like that, to be firing forward, but it does make the helicopter mode look like a lobster. I tend to have them either round the back way or using the secondary peg on it like so, so that they're almost like a, I don't know, like a side pod, but using almost the front of it as more of almost like it's launching something out the front, because the black looks better. But I tend to, if I was going to display it in helicopter mode, do away with those anyway. But carrying on with the transformation, you want to unpeg the back of the helicopter there on the top half, and that splits in half. Now, just leaving that alone for the time being, you then want to release these side panels. Now, it's a little bit hard to see again because it's black like the Vehicle. It doesn't stand out greatly on camera, but it pegs out like so, and you just need to again fold a bit like the Vehicle, fold them out to the side, and they fold down and back on themselves a bit to give a bit more clearance, like so. And again, you can leave them at that point, because then if you turn to the underside of the helicopter, you need to split what's left of the tail, and that immediately becomes a pair of legs. And just at the bottom is just a matter of, as I've actually done that, they've actually sort of turned around anyway, but the little pieces at the bottom there, like the toes, you just need to swivel out to form the foot. But as I say, as I've been doing it, they've almost done it on their own anyway, and they become almost like some high-heeled sort of feet. Not the greatest of feet, very spindly, but again, you're basing it on a female character. They're trying to keep that sort of feminine look about it. Now you just can fiddle around with the placement. You've got a ball joint at the hip, and you've got a swivelling knee joint as well. Now, getting to the main body of the figure, now I'll just have to lift the camera up a little tiny bit so we can just get into more the top half of the body. Now, the arms themselves are very basic. You've just got to separate the two sections, and on the inside you can see how that's done. It's just on a double pin swivelling joint like so, and then just swivel the hand out to the front like so. And again, I'll show you it, but from the inside you just pull it forward, and that's it. Just swivel the hand out again, and that gives you the forearms sort of just a little bit forward, and gives you an elbow joint, so you can bend them down like so. And that'll focus. Right, so that is the arms and legs done. Now you're probably wondering where the head is. Well, it's tucked in there. Now, to get that out, you need to take the top half of the helicopter section and grab hold of effectively her chest, and push the top half of the helicopter forward until you hear a click, and that reveals Airachnid's face. Now, I do like the face sculpt, and I'm going to try and bring that in. I might have to just get her to do the splits, just come down a little bit. There you go. Really do like the detailing on this, and again, you've got a tiny, if I bring in the chest, tiny little Decepticon logo moulded in and painted on her chest, as well as some nice, almost metallic purple in her case, paintwork on the chest and abdomen area. Love the face sculpt on it, very sort of good, almost like a horned head, which again is a little bit more unusual, but I do like that as well. It's not got the greatest of articulation compared to a lot of other ones. There's a little bit of head movement, you tilt and turn a little bit, but not quite as good as some of the other prime line in that way. But articulation in the arms, you've got elbow, you've got hand, and you've got a ball joint at the shoulder, so you have got some articulation there. Now getting on to tidying up these back sections. Now with what looks like almost like the coattails on an evening suit, you've got to turn them round a bit to the, let's see, get that right, turn them around a little bit to, that's where they would be, so I'm trying to show you this in a bit more detail, that's where they'd be in the helicopter mode, and you just got to turn them almost, or what would it be, sort of 90 degrees I suppose, so that the prong part is more to the side and facing forward. You then need to take the helicopter blades back to their original sort of positions. If I start from there, you want to flip so that the larger one, what's got the hinge, is so that the knuckle of the hinge is to the top, and you need to revolve that over, and you've got a hole in it there, and there's a pin which is part of the canopy there. You want to connect those two together. It does take a little bit of fiddling to get it lined up. It doesn't stay on greatly, but it does work. You just pin that in and then bend the other half of the helicopter blade over the top, and then where these are now in this fixed position, you can release them off their little pin at the bottom and do the same, bend them round, and this is to mimic the spider leg sort of sections of airachnid. Now you just need to sort of fiddle around and position them all, and you end up with sort of 5 legs effectively of the spider mode. Not great, because obviously if you include like arms and legs, you've ended up with one too many for a spider mode, because obviously spiders have got 8 legs, but you end up with a reasonably competent figure. As I say, I know a lot of other people dislike this figure, and I can get what you mean. For the size scale of a deluxe, it could have been that bit better, but they are limited. If you want to make reasonably slender helicopter blades, you're not going to be able to make legs that are going to reach to the ground and lift the figure bodily off the ground. So in that sense, you'd have ended up with some really chunky helicopter blades. The weapons are possibly, for me, the biggest downside. They can be held in the hand because of the large hole in the centre of the hand. You can peg them in carefully, but it's not really being held as such, it's just almost like stuck to the palm of the hand. So again, that doesn't really look that great. So what I tend to do again is using the side peg, is to peg the weapons in the holes on the arms, which are the same, effectively the same peg holes in helicopter mode that you'd peg them to the sides, and just peg them in there and use them as almost like an arm cannon, like so. As I say, they tend to let the figure down a little bit. It would have been nice to have had, say, something like a more of a Seeker Jets rocket launcher, or just sort of general gun mode, just to sort of bring the figure a little bit more gunship sort of look to it when it's in plain mode, and of course that would have just given it more of a classic Seeker looking arm cannon mode in robot mode as well. But as with all the Transformers, I'll give them a fair sort of crack of the whip, and I will always try and find the best in a figure. As I say, I don't think she's the worst of the Transformers. I mean, there have been a lot of worse figures designed and built, especially in the early G1 era. At least she has got some articulation and looks reasonable representation of the character in the cartoon as well. Anyway, I thought I'd do this little review and a little tiny shout out to Wolfgang as well. Hope you enjoyed this review. Please feel free to comment and subscribe. Hit the like button if you enjoyed it, and I shall see you again for another Transformers review. Thanks for watching.